Aloha mai kako and welcome back to another book review. I am Mama Kitty and today we are going to be reviewing Off the Ice by Emily Campbell. This is another arc that I was given by her team. For those of you who maybe are not familiar with that term, ARC stands for Advanced Reader Copy, and essentially that just means that I get a copy of the book in exchange for an honest review. So, sit back, relax, and let's get into it. The Goodreads synopsis is as follows. Ava never intended to blow up the biggest scandal in hockey history. As a journalist, she was just doing her job, uncovering the truth, exposing corruption, and making sure no one could bury the story. But when her reporting leads to the suspension of Logan Bennett, the NHL's golden boy and her ex-rival turned unexpected ally, everything gets a lot more complicated. Logan has spent his entire life chasing hockey greatness, and he's not about to let a scandal destroy his career. When the league tries to make him the face of their redemption, he has two choices: play by their rules or fight for something bigger. With Ava at his side, the lines between duty and desire blur, and soon their late night strategy meetings turn into something far more personal. But exposing the truth comes at a cost, and as the pressure mounts, Ava and Logan have to decide if love is worth risking everything. Because in a game where reputations are everything, trusting the wrong person can cost you everything, including your heart. Some risks are worth taking, and loving Logan Bennett, that might be the biggest gamble of all. Okay, so jumping into this, I think I might be an Emily Campbell fan at this point. She might just end up being one of my buy on site authors. Her writing is just really fun and it's easy to read, and she does pacing and emotions really well. And she's just I had a really hard time putting the book down, to be honest. That aside, this is a switchy book. So every other chapter or so, the POV changes between our leading lady Ava and our male lead Logan. It helped with the pacing, as I always say, and we'll get into that a little bit more later. But I loved them both, Ava and Logan, but I definitely didn't like Ava at first. She was kind of prickly. But I guess when you have a really bad boss who doesn't treat you like a human being and you start to fake date the guy that you think is everything wrong with the sports world, I guess I would be a little prickly too. She grows out of that, thankfully, and then she and Logan are just kind of amazing together. Like I said, this is one of those fake relationship stories, but unlike other stories of a similar trope genre, this all happens very, very quickly, and everything changes very, very quickly. And I both loved and hated that. I love a good fake relationship, don't get me wrong, but what I like about fake relationships is that slow burn, right? The characters realize that they're in love with the other person, but aren't ready to admit that, or believe the other character hates them, or it's just typically for and granted, maybe it's just the kind of books that I read, but that fake relationships tend to be slow burns, and this was not a slow burn in any way, shape, or form. I didn't really mind it though. I really liked that the attraction was electrifying and immediate. And I just really loved Logan from the start, to be honest. I don't know what it is about guys with cocky ass grins, but there's just something about them in fiction that is just. Mwah. And then, on the other hand, Logan just has the most sweet little personality once we get to know him, and it's just hard not to love, as Ava demonstrates for us throughout the story. But yeah, he was definitely a 10 out of 10, and I loved that it felt like his life needed Ava to be full. And while maybe that's not the most healthy kind of relationship, because this is a fictional world, it's fine. And they were just really magical together, and I really loved how they were really supportive of each other, because sometimes in these kinds of stories, especially where there's a big scandal that happens, right? There's often a communication issue, and so then there's this bashing over heads over well, why didn't you tell me sooner? Why I didn't want to hurt you? Well, you've hurt me, blah, 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 blah. And while the story did kind of set up for that, it didn't go through that way. The inevitable issues between Logan and Ava didn't have to do with, well, it was a communication issue, but not over well, you should have told me this sooner, right? It was more of a, the synopsis says, right? Logan loses everything, and so he's a little prickly. Logan and Ava were also very spicy, and I adored that. Gotta love a good sex life. And while Campbell doesn't get too far into like the nitty gritty details, she gives us just enough to be like giggling and blushing and kicking our feet and being like, should we leave you guys alone? You know, like that kind of feeling. The details she does give us, though, are hockey details. Like, I don't know if she has played hockey before or she knows somebody who played hockey before, but the amount of research that probably went into this is unfathomable to me. But it really shows the pros of doing your research as a writer, right? Because she was just, I have never been to a hockey game before, right? I'm from Hawaii. We don't have hockey games here. And if we do, I don't know about them. And it was just it was detailed enough for me to kind of know what was going on, if that makes any sense. And I was very impressed with the amount of detail she decided to use during the hockey games. Like I said earlier, the pacing was great. The first like third of it starts out on the slower end, but not so slow that I was like dying, but just slow. Like, you know, we're getting to know the characters. Of course, it's going to be a little slow. But it was Ava and Logan getting to know each other, right? They've just started this fake relationship. They're going on dates. They're going to charity events and trying to lift Logan's reputation via relationship, which, you know, the second third of the story ramps up quite a bit, actually. More towards the end of the section, but just there's definitely an uphill sort of situation happening as far as the energy of the novel. And then right at the end of the second third, it was just like, boom, here you go. Drama. The beginning of the third, the last third, if you will, the pacing went through the roof, right? It was in the stratosphere. I don't know where it went. It was just woof. I couldn't put it down. I was very intrigued and enthralled in what was happening. And then, you know, towards the end of that third section, it starts to slow down again as everything is resolving. And it was a very typical up and down of the story pacing, and she just did a really good job. The background characters were fun and interesting and occasionally a little sinister. I thought that they were all really well-rounded, but also liked that we didn't stick with them too much, right? I think part of that probably has to do with the fact that, like, for example, the next Off the Ice 2 is going to be about Jamie, right? One of the players on Logan's team. So that's very exciting, right? But so it was definitely that feeling of, okay, let's introduce this character enough for you to care about them so that when I write about them later, you want to read more. And I think she just did a really good job about that. I do also want to take a second to again reiterate how well Campbell writes emotions. It was really, really easy to get into the characters. It was really easy to feel what they were feeling, right? It was very raw, and I think she just did a really good job hooking us into really caring about Ava and Logan, as well as their relationship and everything around them that's happening. And it just made for a really fun, easy read. All that being said, overall, I really, really enjoyed this book. I did binge read it because I actually thought that it was due today, the day of recording, but it's not. Goodreads said it's releasing in a couple of days. So I'm on time, which is amazing. But definitely keep an eye out for when that actually comes out. So anyway, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5 stars because it was engaging and it was fun and it was easy and it had me giggling and blushing and kicking my feet, and it was definitely a really interesting sportsy romance. And I think it's actually my first sportsy romance novel. So I would say that as far as sportsy romance novels goes, this was a great introduction to it. And I honestly think I don't think I've ever read nearly as much about hockey as I did in this book. And granted, she doesn't go into like, this is how hockey works, but it's just from Logan's point of view, right? He's playing the game, and so he talks about the puck and where it goes and what it hits and the shots that he gets off, and I don't know, but it was enough, right? And I just appreciated that. The next book we are going to be reviewing is another Emily Campbell one. It was initially given to me as an ARC, but I have missed that release date. Campbell, I'm so sorry. I will still be reviewing it though, because that's part of the whole ARC deal. So definitely hit the subscribe button and hit that notification button so that when the video comes out, you will be the first ones there. That's it for my review. Mahalo nui loa for watching, and I will see you all on the next one. Bye!